pizza, drinks in the back, if anyone's so inclined. Please feel free to help yourself. Pizza, drinks in the back, if you're so inclined. I don't know, Ian, what time did we get out of planning commission?
9:30.
9:30.
That was
We were there
hardcore.
solid 6 hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
I made the right choice.
Hey, just to let everybody know, live streaming to district1united.org. So we're recording this and we'll be seeing us over the later.
Ian, I'm Steve.
Steve, hey, nice to meet you.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. I guess we're getting ready to start.
I can't take this. I'm in business. That's where this is 13 years.
So you can express yourself. Then just our natural beauty. Thanks for coming. Chat soon.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not opposed to, businesses coming in and investing in our community, but you did, thoughtful, considerate manner.
Yeah, don't mind people might show up.
Yeah, no.
I don't, actually. We didn't have an RSVP or anything. It was just the email that you sent out that then got forwarded by others. So I would say you called 6 o'clock and it's 5 after, so.
Okay, maybe three more minutes, something like that.
Good to see you again, sir.
How are you?
Good. How are things?
It's all right. Yeah, all right.
All right, just all right?
Just all right. It's been all right.
Yeah, we were at,
It's been a rough week.
Yeah. Here's my card.
I'm looking for that. Awesome.
And more is coming. I'm a little late to the party, but man, it's crucial.
about 2 hours.
It's crucial to get this one right.
Yeah.
That's all of it. I know you are.
Like just call that. Just like the last thing. And for whatever reason, they chose not to. First time that you seen me make a right turn.
Oh, I know,
She said she's planning on being here, but she also said her daughter has like her house.
Those of you who travel. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Elder Aaron Lockhart with the Church of the Living God. And there is a effort that we would like to present to you all tonight in partnership, and not so much partnership, but in alliance with some of the other folks and the other developers that are coming into the Ashland City area. All right, can everybody hear me? I don't want to mull you to sleep. I'm busted and tired, and I'm trying my best, so I apologize, and I don't like to give apologies. I just need to present tonight. It is what it is. Here's something I want to share with the group. If you all are vested members of the community, interested, and you're here, there is something that you can learn tonight. If you have questions, I'm prepared to answer those as best I can. All right, so we are the Church of the Living God, going around here. And I have a item I can present to you. This is the second or third time I've done it, so bear with me. If you have questions, I'll try to refer back to some of the graphics. But Chip has a better outlay, and these are some of the graphics that he'll use to help explain that. So for those who don't know, It is approximately at the intersection of Raleigh Parkway and Ashland City Highway. There is a parcel of property that sits there that you all may be familiar with, but we're talking about in this quadrant where the church is on property. We bought that in the late 70s, operated there since the early to mid 80s, and we watched the community grow up around us. We're very interested to see development that will be in harmony with what we plan. And what we have planned are to continue to have a church headquarters for our national organization right here in Nashville. It is by our mandate that the church develop a meeting center that can house delegates each year, third week in July, and it has been doing so since 1908. Okay? In the 1930s, we grew to prominence and we began to spread throughout the Southeast, Midwest, and the Northeast in parts of the United States, with one actual chapter of our church operating in Nassau, Bahamas. So out of all of that, we have a heavy engagement throughout the South, particularly Florida. So a lot of our members from all over the country converge onto Nashville, and we have been harboring at local hotels using the ballrooms in lieu of a national headquarters. We have a property currently on Clarksville Pike, right up the road. It used to be the ILR Center. The Institute of Learning Research, we purchased that 25,000 square foot facility so that we could try to do some of the work that we need. It houses primarily our publishing portion of the church ministry. And I have a booklet back there entitled Knowing God for $1, and I wanted to highlight that, and then I will sit down and engage in questions that you all have. Like I said, this is the second or third time we've done this. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but Chip covered his aspect of it and what they want to bring in. But for the church, we have been operating on that property. We used to hold tent meetings there when we first purchased it, and we used to have a really good spiritual time. Again, you would see this activity 2 weeks out of the year. That's it. That's pretty much. We have a small congregation that resides here in Nashville, and we do have students that come in from around the country who stay with the church from time to time as they go through their matriculation and post-secondary education. So given that it is low impact, and yes, we will be dormant the majority of the time for those who are in the area who may remember the tent meetings. We come in, one fell swoop, we do our thing, and then we're out until next year. That's what we want to continue on. So we've been there for a while, and we were directly affected by the proposal that was coming in from the partners with Chip. And we thought about it, and if his stags were here, they will tell you, we pretty much, no, we don't need that, we aren't interested. And it wasn't we've been through this before. Eads Creek phases 1, 2, and 3 started to develop and watch that. The dump across the street, those things were really impactful for us, and we're still impacted by it. And then, of course, I don't want to mention representation, but we struggled with that, trying to get application for what we wanted to do and what was happening to us in the negative. And so, talking about dumping and vagrancy, all of those things were affecting us, and we were putting out funds to help maintain that. And so we're a little frustrated, but we are welcoming the aspect of this proposal that comes in, and it will bring in turn services. We duplicate this all over the country. So we have a church in the community. That community works in partnership. If there's daycare needs, we try to fill it. If there is the senior citizen needs, we try to address that as well. I will admit, a lot of our population in our church hierarchy are geriatrics. They're up in age, and they like to see services that they know are beneficial. And so that's what we do. That's a hallmark. We have a couple of our members. Brother Nathan, can you hand the book? This booklet, and this is, I promise, the last thing I have to say, and then I'll open up for questions. With some of the literature, this is just a simple pamphlet, and I'll make it available to anyone who wants. And I'm not preaching here, I'm just telling you how this ties in with our mission and development. there are 3 tenets that we try to follow. And knowing God for $1 or less is just a token effort that says, if you give us $1, we will then turn around and give 100% of that to the community that we serve. It's worked for us. It works in Chicago, where Nathan is from. It works in Carolinas. We do this. It's nothing new to us. But in that, there are 3 tenets, and that is love God, love yourself, and love your neighbor. This is what we believe in. So I want to make sure to share that with you all as a premise. Yes, our church is active in the community and has been so in Middle Tennessee, Nashville for years, and we don't intend to go anywhere. We're here and we like this. It's in our mandate, by the way, to have a national headquarters in Nashville. That's in our church charter. That was decided in 1908, well before me, and so here we've been doing it. At this time, I will yield the rest of my time to Chip, but if there are any questions for the church, I'm prepared to answer that as far as it goes. I didn't get into the graphics, so that's not like I'm not a political person. I represent the church interest. I have a question. Has anyone recalled or do they remember the tent revivals that we had? I see a couple of you, yes. Thank you, neighbors. I hope we weren't too loud, but those were our joyous times. I can say that growing up. Not like coming from South Florida into the mountains. We thought they were huge mountains. We were in Tennessee. So that's what we enjoyed. But we do that for a lot of our folks and our youth. And they do community service projects. Barring that, there are no other questions. Thank you all very much.
We can turn this light off. You don't have a preference. All right. So, thank you, Aaron. I'm Chip Howarth. My partner, Ryan Moses, who some of y'all met last meeting, couldn't be here tonight. I'm going to speak a little bit on his behalf if we don't screw that up. Talk to you a little about what's being proposed, which y'all saw on the render. So just to kind of level set with everybody, I presume everybody in here knows where we are. The church's property is 4520 Ashland City Highway, right here at the corner of Bradley Parkway and Ashland City. My partner, Ryan Moses, and his business owns this unnumbered property, the Eskimo Ashland, this unnumbered Cato property, and the sliver of Cato right here. My partner is in has a warehouse distribution need. His, what's his current? His operational warehouse was destroyed in the March 2020 tornado. They were off Cockrell Bend and have been renting space ever since in Smyrna. They about to be run up on their lease, so they've been looking for opportunities to stay in the area, in the community, maintain what they need to maintain, good access, Broadway Parkway, Ashland City Highway, things like that. And this opportunity to buy these properties on Ashland City and Cato came about. The reason it came across his radar was the IR zoning that currently exists on this Ashland City Highway property. As Aaron mentioned, the conversation did not start with get this property, talk to the church, see how that works. The initial conversation was like, all right, we've got IR property. It's right here at the corner of Ashland City Highway and Bradley Parkway. This actually predated my business relationship with Ryan. Like, what can we build here? Based off just, what you're allowed to do, again, not detailed site planning, but just high-end site planning. The numbers come out to be 176,000 square foot warehouse, and that's what the original idea was. We took it to TDOT, he took it to TDOT, and asked about access over here. Everyone, or not everyone, people may remember when Ashland City Highway got expanded, divided highway happened. TDOT was a hard no on having a left turn this close to Bradley Parkway and this divided highway. And so the other option was working their way through Cato up onto Cato Road. This isn't a traditional, when people hear warehouse distribution, a lot of times they think of 18-wheelers. This isn't that. This is a box truck type distribution business, so it's not quite the same impact. There are some 18-wheelers that happen, Ryan average that averages 3 or 4 times a day, delivering, and then they go on the box trucks.
Say that again, 3 or 4 times a day?
The semi estimates 3 to 4 times a day.
Yeah, the 18-wheelers.
Yes,
How many
ma'am.
times? 3 or 4 times a day?
A day.
How about the other ones?
The other ones all leave, I don't know how many trucks you have, but they all leave at 4 a.m. and get back at 3:30.
Yeah, but how many?
24 to 27 is what we
He
said
said
last week.
24 to
that's what he said,
27.
yeah.
Okay, so it's about 100. Oh, wait,
I'm not quite following. You mean like total
If
trips?
you add it all up, how many,
Yeah, okay.
the possible
Yes,
amount of trips.
that's right.
Yeah.
So again, the idea, like looking at it, like that just wasn't a really good solution. And so looping in with the church, began to examine what could happen, learn a little bit about the church. I forget how that exact conversation started, but it really was a collaborative type conversation. Like, how can we figure out a way so that we can work with this and y'all can work with this also? And so, entered into an agreement with the church, kind of as partial land swap, partial sale. And the idea being keeping the industrial on Ashland City Highway and keeping the church use on Cato Road. There's no connectivity. At one point, there was connectivity between these two sites. And that was when we were trying to figure out how to do something together. The idea now is a full land sale, land swap arrangement. So the church is going to own the piece of this is flip 90 degrees. Plan east, the church is going to own the piece on the Cato Road side. There'll be a property line in between, and then Eskimo Ashland will own the Ashland City side, keeping the industrial on this side. We were able to move the entrance farther away from Bradley Parkway, as far out of the side of the divided highway as possible. Had preliminary conversations, TDOT, they seem to be okay with that. We're still going to address some issues with ingress egress where we technically need two, but we think we have a good case for a variance on here. So that's generally the idea. The building site, and as you can see, and the parking access road, everything's going to be contained. There's a giant hill, y'all know the area, right about here. One of the reasons we're trying to keep everything over here and the church is going to keep over here. So the theory being, let's really plant these property corners, these property edges, keep as much noise down here as possible with the hill, and try and keep the industrial use on Ashland City Highway and keep the the Church of the Living God uses the property once a year, 2 weeks in July. I'm not sure how many members come, but that's the idea. And so the usage on Cato Road will be very minimal if this proposal goes forward. That was kind of very high level. I really want more new things to be comments from all of y'all and your concerns. We had a little bit of trouble figuring out how to have a meeting. We were able to make some good connections through Mr. Gary Moore with some people who were running for District 1. And so we were able to have a meeting on May 18th at the Northwest YMCA. That was in our intent to be one of several meetings that we wanted to have, just to kind of continue to hear gather feedback. So that's really what the purpose of this is for us. And yeah, I mean, I can keep talking, but I don't think that would be a best use of our time.
So, I came in a little late.
Sure.
About the church. So, out of the 2 weeks, it's gonna be used up to a year. So, what's the plan for the building after they're gone? Like, are they gonna let it sit dormant the whole time, the other 50?
So, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I hear your question.
I'm asking, yeah, you said 2 weeks, right? That you're gonna use
Third
the year.
week in July is when the delegates come from around the country, and it will last approximately 7 to 10 days. And then after that, we will have a local congregation that will meet on the property. And then, of course, the facilities obviously are going to be a little bit more than what that local congregation needs, and that's where community uses come in. That's a hallmark, that's what we plan to do with the church, and we'll duplicate what we've done around the country. Yes, sir.
So will that parking lot be monitored during the time that you're not there? Because we're basically putting a parking lot in the woods, which, a lot of people are gonna be able to access. So what's the safety plan for, if you're only gonna be there for 2 weeks of the year, sort of dovetail on that question, because I had that question as well.
Okay, yeah. Did I answer that, sir, about the time?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what, and to your question, I'll tell you this, I learned a lot here in North Nashville. You gotta batten down the hatches, you gotta put video surveillance up, you gotta deactivate your property. I had three 25-ton AC units compromised. That hurt. And so it told me I have to be fully active and engaged on our property. And it was a painful lesson. So in answering your question, we will run administrators that will be there. 3 to 4 people who work full-time for the National Church will be at that location, pushing out our literature, a newsletter. We have to have quarterlies that have to be done. So those personnel should be there year round.
Will the entrance be locked at night?
Yes, I would hope so, yes.
Oh, I mean, like access back into the arcade room.
Like a gate.
Yes, gated, absolutely. That is our intent. That right there is secluded, no traffic going in and out because of what we have invested. in
How,
the city.
how many delegates will be attending the 7 to 10 days?
So on average, we've averaged just under 110 annually delegates.
Is there any reason why a 25,000 square foot facility can accommodate 110 delegates?
That's on our Clarksville. Why it can't, it's not built and configured for it.
Well, wouldn't it be cheaper to renovate that than to come and build a new,
We thought about that and it's not feasible. It just,
under what premise?
what do you mean what premise?
And what premise is it not feasible?
You'd have to do a whole structural, redo of foundation.
Well, aren't you doing the whole structural foundation?
That's brand new. Built
Same
up.
thing?
I don't want to debate it, but
Yeah.
it's not when it comes to what we would have to invest in.
And this is where the partial land swap, and partial sale comes in, because the proceeds from the sale will live on the fund, enable the church to fund
I-
it.
Is Ryan Bob's son?
Yes. I think she had her hand up first.
Yeah.
I think my only concern is you're talking about all of the traffic that's gonna be going down Cato Road. So you're attracting more people, and I know that people are asking questions about the crime around the property, but are you not making us more susceptible to crime in our homes by having more traffic come down?
Yeah, so that was, at the last meeting, that's why I brought up security, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't, and when I said everybody that's in the church is not other church, I'm just talking about there being strangers that don't live in the community.
Exactly,
That will
coming
be
through there.
within walking distance of these communities.
Yeah.
I mean, when they leave off your choice, out of your church exit, they don't have to be in a car to get to our neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we don't have gates.
And we don't have a lot of traffic right now, which is, is good. But what you're doing is you're bringing more traffic, you're bringing more visibility to neighborhoods that we're not used to that. And we're gonna be more prone to, I feel like, crime.
Yeah, we're pretty secluded because
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that live there are the only people that
And
are
it's
up and down
why I
Cato
bought
Road,
my
right?
house.
And service people.
Exactly. I bought my house because it's secluded and not to have a lot of
Same.
traffic come through here.
I wouldn't say that Cato is secluded and safe. A lot of stolen vehicles get dumped there. People drive down that road to dump their dogs and stuff like that. So I mean,
It's
there
more
are,
secluded than other neighborhoods though.
Yeah.
You look at
That's
the
true.
Great Doorbell alerts, you don't see a lot of it going on in our neighborhood. It's in the other neighborhoods around us. So,
I've been there for 40 years down at the end of Cato Road, and there's not a whole lot of that that's been going on at this time because of the dead end. When they put the street light down at the dead end and put the other street lights up, that terminated a lot of that. So that's mitigated some of the issues that have come up. The biggest issue, in my opinion, is why you want to industrialize and develop some of these things over here to one of the most diverse neighborhoods that are in this city. And that's gonna disrupt an area that should be for residential. And it doesn't, we can't control who comes on there, only you can, okay? Well, we don't know.
Couple of comments.
Have you thought about maybe a necessary easement from the liquor store or the liquor property to your property in the back, and then no access from Cato Road?
Yeah, we did think of that initially. Keep in mind, our property is fronted from there. And so by going to the back end and having that cut off, it's, again, the egress entrance of church members. I take that to heart. The same conversation, without coming across in a different way, was what our members said in 1988 when we heard about the first development of Eaton's Creek coming. We felt encroachment, but we had to accept the fact that development was going to happen with residential, and we took it then as, and this was the argument back then with the congregation, it could be more members, and we have to accept that, and we did. And I'm not trying to compare that with your
because
question.
accepting more members and accepting more crime are two different things.
Yeah, but you made the key word there was residential development. This
Yeah.
isn't residential development.
Exactly. We were there and we accepted that. I'm not saying in comparison, but I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna say that every member is, a saint. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the likelihood is that, our members, we haven't had 0 incidents in the years we've been operating.
You're talking about lighting. How are you gonna light this facility to keep the trouble out? How are you going to prevent that from happening? And it goes for Best Brands as well. And I've done business with Best Brands for 13 years, so I understand that entity quite well. I have relatives that work there. Okay, so you're talking light pollution, you're talking quality of life, you're talking air pollution with the number of vehicles coming down the road, with diesel vehicles coming in. It's not conducive to a fine neighborhood development, and that's what we're looking for.
So
We understand that there's going to be development, okay? As the city grows, there will be development. We've got a time to develop this in the long-range plan that the planning commission has denied this coming in that's not conducive to what they think about the area would be. So I've yet to hear someone explain to me how this benefits
Yeah,
the
what's the
neighborhood.
enhancements of the neighborhood, that's what
Sure.
I'm saying.
How does this benefit it?
Right, and thank you for your question, and I'll try to give you a response, but other than saying a church can go anywhere, and there's a reason for that as far as zoning, and that's what I'm here to represent. So I just want to make sure I'm clear about that. On the industrial part, he can argue that case, but for the church, we're saying, you know, we're looking to be harmonious in communities, and we've demonstrated that all over the country, and that's something we're aiming to do, which is why we bought the property.
Right, but isn't that current property that you own enough property to do what you want to do?
I don't want to be subjective about the question, is it enough for us?
Sure.
I don't want to say in any answer, yes, no, I'm just saying, you know, that's our intent to grow the church.
So from an analytical standpoint, I don't see where the harmony comes in, because you are interrupting our harmony. You already said 4 trucks a day, a 2-lane road in a school zone.
Yes.
So that means everybody's gonna start going different routes and traffic can be backed up all the way around. How is that harmony?
But we're talking about keeping all that stuff on Ashland City Highway.
It sounds good on paper.
Well, but I mean, and there's 2 things we can talk about. One is the plan that we've got shown, which has no connectivity between the church and the industrial zone. The other one is maybe routing all the church traffic off of Cato Road entirely, and so then there's no access for either of these uses on a Cato Road. I don't want to speak for Aaron and his team. That wouldn't bother us. But so that's something that, like, as of right now, again, we can debate how easy it would be. The answer is it wouldn't be easy. But there's an opportunity for someone, not going to be us, to put an industrial property here because it's currently zoned, and then route traffic through this way. Like, that's right now. And that's not a good result for anybody, we don't think. It's not what the church wants to happen next door to them. It's not how we want to do it. And it's just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, because I've driven Cato Road, I get it. You know, it's one of those things, like, the idea of box trucks and all those things on Cato Road doesn't make any sense. So there's a way, either one of the 2 ideas, either just the church using Cato Road, or maybe the church using Ashland City, we can avoid that entirely.
But if it doesn't make any sense, what makes you think the planning commission would vote for that? And what makes you think the council would vote for that? From your own words, it doesn't make any sense.
For us to not get a rezoning bill,
Yeah.
and just do what we, just
In
do
other
it
words,
without
it doesn't
any.
make any sense to bring the trucks, as you state, down Cato
Presented in
Road.
the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because we're trying to not to do that.
Well, it doesn't.
You said that was the original idea, though, and you
But is
weren't
that the
sure
result that we
it's
want?
not gonna
I
happen.
know, but we could fight that battle later on ourselves.
Yeah, I think we want some definites. I think, it's a lot of if-thens. If
Sure.
this doesn't work, then it's gonna be this. If this doesn't work, then it's gonna be this. And we're telling you what we don't want the then to be,
Sure.
right? Because
Well, I think that there's a process that we can work, because again, part of this idea is like, let's figure out like what the absolute hard no's are. Like, because frankly, like, y'all know better than I do, right? Y'all absolutely live it, like, on Cato Road. Like, I can't tell you what the most annoying thing in your life is living on Cato Road with all this. But I can hear from you to do it, and then we can take that and formulate a document where hopefully we achieve something that makes sense.
So this is my thing, and I always live in hypotheticals because I'm a project manager and I have to think about contingency plans. What if there's some disaster, there's something that happens, where's one way in and one way out of Jordan Ridge? There's 2 ways in, 2 ways out, but it's a circle. There is no back way you can get
Sure.
out, like Eagles Creek has back way, they can go off on crossings. We don't have a way out. So what if something happens at that church? What if there's a chemical spill at that industrial? You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
again,
How are we getting out of,
Yeah.
if y'all are all on Cato Road and we're not backed up in our neighborhood?
But that's what I'm suggesting. Let's figure out, let's,
Yeah, the
what we're hearing
compromise is, in my eyes, the compromise is how to keep y'all off of Cato Road.
And here's the
But
other
this
thing,
church
here's the other
did
thing.
have a
You've got
comment,
property on, what is it, on, right there off Centennial?
Best friends does.
Brent Best Friends does. Well, what's wrong with that property?
That's not big enough for their needs.
There's acquisitions of property for sale down there.
I mean,
And there's
yeah, I
property
feel
for sale
the
out
role
at
of
Ashland
money-
City
money doesn't
Highway.
matter, yeah, there's absolutely those opportunities, but like,
Yeah.
this is
I
sort of,
understand.
and so again, we're kind of at the church a little bit, like, why don't you just do this?
Well, I don't want to get into the hypotheticals for the church because we can go, again, you know, a lot of things could happen, but I cannot answer a hypothetical, and I'd rather stay more concrete. I like what you said, give some more definite as you come up with the plans. I just want to make sure that I can address any questions for the church as we go in and not get in the way of anything else that's coming up. But again, that's something we're looking at. So you had a comment?
So if you can't address the hypotheticals, what are the true facts? What are
Well,
the facts?
again, the facts are, right now, this is an industrial. An industrial, 176,000 square foot warehouse ostensibly could go on this piece of property right here.
You own this property?
My partner does,
Uh-huh.
Best Friends does.
Okay, uh-huh.
Sell it to the church.
But TDOT's already said that you can't turn left.
You can.
Sir, I made the offer once.
So-
Yeah, I know.
I did.
So,
Yeah,
but you can't
Let's
turn,
move them up a little. You
Yeah.
cannot get into your property to Ashland City because it's like a DOT doesn't allow you, right?
correct.
Okay, so you need for sure you need entrance for Cato. That is
If-
not.
If that, today,
No, not today. It's going to be happen because this law doesn't change it. It's a certain from certain position of the entrance of the state highway or whatever, you cannot do so right or whatever left. This is it's a law. So they are not going to give you permission today, tomorrow, and in 100 years.
sure. Well,
Okay.
I disagree with,
No,
like,
I-
are you suggesting this entrance right here?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
They don't allow you,
I disagree with you, and based on the conversations that we have.
but they don't allow you.
But say you're right, then none of this happens.
That's her point is you're saying we could be stuck with it regardless, but you just told us TDOT didn't approve it.
Yeah.
So the
Well,
point is,
TDOT didn't approve it, when it was just, and it's hard to see right here, you can kind of see the property line, it's a shaded gray line. right
The
there.
church has that access.
This is the
That's
church's
what you're
property.
referring to.
This
We
is
have
the current
access
Best Friends
to
property.
Ashland City.
So the Best Friends, the entrance on Cato, the issue is to be right here. So we're talking about pushing it farther down Ashland City.
So you couldn't put a necessary easement from the top since the church already technically owns it, and then have it go to the back and then no access off the Cato?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the question is, can we figure out a way to have no traffic on Cato, the answer is absolutely yes. But let's play out your hypothetical a little bit, say that we can't do this.
You want to put a wheel truck turning 90 degrees in the first entrance in the Cato and let the 90 degrees go to the bridge and you start over there and we start.
But if we do a bill that says, this rezone is contingent upon no access on Cato, then that means that we can't ever go on Cato. Like, that's what the bill would say, that's what the law would say.
and why is that bad?
Yeah.
I think we're open to that. I think that's what we're talking about. I think we're sitting here saying, like, let's write in the bill, no traffic on Cato, whether it's the church using Ashland City, whether it's, there's a property line between the two. Like, that's what we're proposing. So let's put that in the bill, in the law, so then that tracks, when we go to pull permits, they have a law that says these guys can't access Cato. Period.
This road is not a big enough road for industrial traffic.
Sure.
I mean, I've only lived 6 months, but I live directly across the road from where you're talking about. And one day there was a wreck on the road, the whole road was closed. And at that point, you could go around, you can't do that anymore because the bridge is now
If
closed.
anything happens, we are sitting ducks.
Every day, when school, morning and afternoon, you can't get through because cars are lined up. I've been stuck in a wreck there. It's ludicrous to me that anyone would think it's a good idea to put commercial traffic down that road.
And we don't think it's a good idea.
But you proposed it and T-Dot turned it down.
Well, we asked them, what are our options here? And that's what they proposed back to us. And so we said, that's not a good solution. So that's
Wait.
why we're here.
Do I understand that you said that TDOT recommended that you make that right turn onto Cato Road over the overpass? Is that what they said?
No. TDOT said, you're right, let me be. What TDOT said was this turn, an entrance right here, for commercial traffic will not fly. Because that's state highway, like that won't happen. So then the question is, they put on us, like, you gotta figure something else out.
Okay.
And so the something else is going on.
There's property on further out Ashland City Highway, there's plenty of space for commercial property, industrial property.
Honestly, I just want to say to that point, though, there is, in my conversations with people in District 1, there is such limited capacity to accept expansion of industrial footprint in District 1. Period. Nashville Next has it from Briley and Ashland City Highway, north and west is green. It is AR2A, T2 rural preservation. And so I was coming off of Briley and was getting onto Briley, or coming up Ashland City Highway or whatever, and I was looking at that site and it's all green. And what would be there next is a big warehouse, which is gonna set the stage for what happens next. Because if there's a giant warehouse sitting there, in a month or 2 years or 5 years, they can say, oh, there's another warehouse here, we'll put another one, and then we're completely undermining what we've all said is our plan for Nashville Next, which is rural preservation. If Ashland City Highway is to become the next Hendersonville, and we're gonna build out Ashland City Highway, that to me needs to be part of a much larger comprehensive plan and a much bigger understanding. It shouldn't happen with individual flips of this property and that property incrementally, and then all of a sudden we're left with this mess.
Yeah, of industrial life when none of us moved over here.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, and even if it's one of those things where, I mean, if there's some way we can't get around it, there's gonna have to be a compromise. And in y'all's previous presentation, and then the one that I watched, I don't hear anyone saying that we're gonna make it our point to make sure that the residents are not negatively impacted by this, right? Y'all, I didn't hear nobody say we're gonna get with the city and try and widen Cato Road, add some more lanes, or give us sidewalks so kids and people can actually walk on Cato while all this traffic is going around. I run on Cato. I don't have a sidewalk, but I also don't have a lot of traffic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I don't hear any of that. I don't hear that there's been where you guys are actually saying, you know what, that we can go back and we can try and work through how we can make it where it's the least amount of negative impact to you guys down there.
I don't know that you're asking me to respond, but I'm gonna.
Go ahead.
So you don't want me to tell me to shut
No,
up.
go ahead.
But I think I would respond with, we're gonna do what we can do in the property that we have access to and authority to mess with, which is these 3 properties right now for Best Friends, and the church has the 4. In our opinion, this is the best situation for these 4 properties. It is a strategy that keeps traffic off of Cato Road. It's a strategy that keeps industrial on Ashland City Highway when there's industrial use or zoning already presented there. So it may not be ideal, but given the current situation, it's not we are of the opinion that it could be worse. And so we're trying to figure out a way through these meetings, like, okay, could be worse isn't great. Let's figure out how to make it better than it could be worse. And that's what we want to do here. And if it's keeping stuff off Cato or things like that, if it's talking about like what type of landscape buffers we need to see, if it's talking about having monitors for light pollution, any of those things, like absolutely all those are on the table. Our idea here is like, to hear from you. Really, that's it. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm not here to dispute anything you're saying. I'm just trying to get as much information as possible. Because there's still a process that we have to go through.
The end game is, even if we oppose this, you guys gonna move forth anyway.
Yeah, but it may not work. I mean, we could, and it may not work. So like then it's back to what it is now.
Well, why wouldn't you want to change your strategy and go to Plan B?
What's the plan?
Plan B, sell your property to the church and buy some other property and make some improvements to where it need to go on Cockrell Bend.
I hear you. I don't think I can have a hypothetical conversation about, I would tell you that we've been looking for property for a long time. And we don't have it. So it's not like we decided we could pick this and we just stopped looking.
You just said where we are now, so be clear about what is the current proposal.
So we don't have a current proposal on what to do if this deal doesn't work with the church. Because the use wouldn't work for Best Friends, what they need for their future expansion. They're looking at their next 20-year plan, and that's what they're thinking about. So if this doesn't work for Best Friends, and we can't do this deal with the church, then what will probably happen is, I don't want to speak to uncertainty, but it won't work for my partner and his use. So at that point, he's got to evaluate what does work on there.
But you said where we are now, so what is now? The proposal
Oh,
of
right.
having the trucks
So like-
go down Cato Road?
Again, we're not proposing that. I'm just saying that
You
is.
just said where we are now. I'm
Yeah,
just
where we are
clarifying
now,
what
is
is
someone,
the now.
someone could build industrial right here and then take trucks down Cato Road. That's now.
So
Sorry,
that
I
is an
misunderstood.
option,
I misunderstood
because
the
you're
question.
saying it is the current proposal.
Yeah, again, there's a lot, and Ian knows this, we've talked about this, like, there's a lot from what I just said from A, and, you know, we're to Z, like, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen in between. Theoretically, that's what's now.
What's happened is that they had a proposal to the planning commission. The staff recommended disapproval. The planning commission denied it, the approval, or disapproved. And so now it's waiting for a council person to pick up and introduce legislation into the council. That can either happen with an at-large, or some other council person, or our own council person, or it can happen after the election when one of the candidates, are they all here? Well, maybe one of the candidates might be able to come. Most of them are.
80% are.
But I think that's where we are in terms of the
But
process.
you said two different things. You've said box trucks would not be going down Cato Road, but then you said we're back to where we are now, and where we are now is the box trucks would be going down Cato Road.
All right, I mean,
Am I hearing you correctly?
I think some people are not clear on what they're doing. Where this red is where the church owns.
right.
Currently, the church owns that. Right now, they can put a warehouse on the IR and can take these trucks in and out Cato Road. Their proposal is to swap those two pieces where Cato Road would have no industrial traffic. It would only have the church traffic. And this would then move their entrance down to a place they could come in and out and completely stay on Ashland City Highway. They would not be coming any industrial in and out on Cato Road. It'd be the church only.
But the way that property, the frontage on Cato Road is not conducive to industrial traffic.
And it won't be.
We're not
It
saying
Right.
can't be, if you're, but if you're going back to saying that you can do that, but you can't, because it's gotta be approved for industrial traffic, and that won't
And
happen.
that's gotta be off the table.
Well, right, there wouldn't be an industrial on the Cato Road properties, it'd just be frontage access.
Right, so it couldn't happen. There's not enough ingress and egress for commercial traffic on Cato Road, on that slice of property. So that's not a viable option
Well, it's
for
65 feet
anybody.
wide, and that's plenty wide for a street.
It's not wide for turning on, how you gonna get an 18-wheeler to turn on Cato Road with the bridge there?
I hear you, and that's not what we wanna do.
It's not
And
happening.
TDOT would have to approve that?
I hear you, and that's not what we wanna do.
And if they're not gonna approve it next to, I'd be willing to roll the dice.
As long as that's not what's gonna happen. I hear you say, I hear what you're saying, and that's not in the plan. We wanna know that it's never in the plan.
There's a mechanism to make sure it never happens.
Yeah, it can't.
Through a council bill.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone is kind of concerned with, like, okay, one thing we have to do, okay, we have to do with the church traffic, if that's what we have to deal with on Cato Road.
Or no church traffic, that's also.
Or no, that's the ideal thing, yeah, but definitely no box trucks, like, definitely, like, it can't even be, oh, if this happens, then we're gonna have to put the box trucks on Cato. That should never
It's
ever
not
happen.
feasible at all.
It's not gonna, it just can't happen.
Can you speak to the SP versus non-SP council bill? Because the Lucy Kemp said in the conversation during the planning commission meeting that there really should be an SP where we get very specific about all the stuff, and that was what gets pushed forward versus a council bill which is less than an SP, as I understand it.
So, I mean, what an SP is a site plan with a specific list of requirements that go above and beyond what the base zoning allows. It's a specific plans document, it's spot zoning. What we have the opportunity to do through a council bill is basically do an SP through a council bill. It's list all the things, yeah, absolutely, you can add riders to all the, you can
Okay.
list all the things that you want, in the bill, prohibitions, because normally it's like FAR to be limited to this, and those types of things, that happens on council bills too.
I'm so curious, what's the point of an SP then if we have this other mechanism? I mean, if you can already do that, because what I understand is that SPs are required if you have a major plan amendment, which going from IR, or from AR2A to IR is a major plan amendment. That was the point of the planning commission's deliberation. And so it's either a major plan amendment to expand the IR, which requires an SP. Is that right?
Doesn't necessarily
No?
require an SP. It
I'm not
requires-
sure I followed the process correctly.
Yeah, if you wanted to get it such that IR was a permitted zoning in the list of classifications, you'd have to do a major plan amendment. That is not an SP. That's a whole separate process. It's a community plan amendment, is what it is.
But you have to change that property from AR2A to IR
Right.
in order to expand.
Yeah, so if you're
Doesn't
saying
require
like,
SP.
if you're saying, what is a process to go through where it's like an approval process from planning? Like they want a community plan amendment saying that we now are giving this a community plan that allows IR, which I'm not even sure what that would be, to be perfectly honest. It's not real maintenance. And then you would need a rezone to track alongside the community plan amendment, asking to rezone AR to IR. It's a two-step process. An SP is a whole other process outside of that.
How many votes from council will it take to begin the process of doing what you're talking?
27.
27? Roll the dice.
Chuck, if I could,
Sure.
I just want to make mention, someone mentioned sidewalks.
I did.
Yeah, that was the first thing that we had proposed when we were considering this, because I walked up and down Cato Road and the shoulders are right there, it is now. And that wouldn't be good. We want the full glamorization, that takes representation, and we would love to have that ease curb appeal that the church would have to bring in. We would want that. But I'll tell you this, the church will be the first in line if the consensus of the community says, no, we don't want that. We can say like a right. That's where the church is. We're not looking to aggravate and create something totally new. That's a request. Although we see the advantages of it, I seem to say that with what we've done, and I'll say historically, I don't know if you guys were there before Ashland City was widened, but they took a house from us when we had that property. There was a little house down in the bottom. It was great. It was serving our purposes, but we had to give that up with that roadway expansion. And we grew with the community. Again, we would say, being in harmony with what the community is doing. The church would do that. We would go against the consensus.
Can you speak to why that site is better for the church than the current site?
You're talking about one individual, and there's a quorum of bishops that make that decision. I don't have the answer. I'll be honest.
Do you have I mean, does it matter to you?
36 churches that we have around the country.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, using the existing site, right, the existing property that you already own and building your facility there without expanding the IR. Why is
So we
this?
have 3 properties in Middle Tennessee, but that property we've had the longest.
Mhm.
And that's where we have a lot of members who paid, given, died,
Yeah.
who said that's where they want.
Yes, and
That's why we're there.
but we're not actually building where we've been talking about for the last decades. We're over the hill. And I'm curious about why that spot versus on Ashland City Highway is more preferable to the church. Because do you have a preference of being back in?
That's where we've been the longest.
Well, we can build on that property.
That's where we've been the longest. That's the answer to that. They have a vested interest to be in this area where we were first purchased. That's where the church is. We wanted to just sell it and get rid of it a long time ago, but a lot of members were dead set.
Yeah, I'm not saying abandon the property or sell it. I'm saying you have property right now, and what we're talking about is actually building elsewhere. Like, I don't know how many thousands of feet that is, but why is that positioning better than on Ashland City Highway for the church?
You're saying you want us to build somewhere else?
No, why is the Cato Road
Why do
better
we
than
see
Ashland
all?
City Highway for the church?
We've had it the longest, vested interest, a lot of members of it.
It's
I
also-
don't think we understand
It's
each
also
other.
not land swap, it's partial land sale as well. So there's proceeds that'll flow to the church that will enable them to construct. Is that the question?
Yeah, I think that's the question.
Oh,
Why do the
why
land
we
swap?
are interested in this?
Yeah, why do you want to move to the Cato roadside versus build where you've been visioning for the last 40 years? You have vision for that place, you've had conversations and meetings, right?
Right here on Ashland City.
Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And so why not there?
We still could.
Well, why not?
We're trying to get full, well, we're trying to make sure that we match with the community. There is an interest that will allow his development to work in conjunction with what we want to do. So
But
those
his
two things
development is
are.
not in interest with the community. That's the thing.
That's what we're trying to do now. If it's a no-go, it's a no-go.
How many?
I'm not sold on it.
How many of your church members live in this community?
I'm sorry.
We seem to be discussing a lot of hypotheticals here.
No.
What I would suggest to the gentleman, that to draw up a proper proposal, what you want to do. Tell us what you want to do with the traffic, exactly, write it down on paper, and we can discuss it again. Because we're just jumping backwards and forwards here. We're talking about one problem, but that can change. You know, why not draw up a proper proposal, and then we will discuss it and see if we can.
You're
Agree.
absolutely, and that's what happened with us. He came to us back and forth, and we were like, and then of course, things changed, and an opportunity came up, and we said, if this plan works, it keeps it off Cato Road.
So how many more meetings like this are we gonna have?
That's a good question.
But the thing about it is, there has to be, there's some type of financial incentive for you to move from that property to a place.
There is a swap that,
So it's a financial.
I said that in the very first meeting.
I understand that it's a financial incentive, but it's a financial incentive for you guys, but it's a detriment to us.
How y'all doing?
Well, if I was running the business they're trying to run, I would not pick that joint.
Yeah.
Because your trucks are gonna be held up, you're gonna lose business, right? You're gonna be stuck on Cato Road with trucks, or you're gonna be stuck on the other side. I wouldn't wanna run a business like that.
No trucks on Cato Road.
But you
No
are
new
sure.
trucks. That's not 17. No trucks on Cato Road.
But I think,
But you're not sure about
have y'all done a traffic study?
It's in progress.
Of what happens right there with the school? Because every day they say from 9 a.m. to about 10 a.m. is traffic right there.
Yeah.
And
Every afternoon.
And wait for them cottages to get
Yeah,
full.
yeah.
We're really gonna be stuck. That's why I think they're trying to do that little bridge that, where you can turn on Cato and
doesn't
be
have it on that map.
one street
So your
over, and
map-
still be in the same traffic on Ashland City though, it really ain't gonna help us out long.
It's going to be the same, you're going to be on the other side worse.
But on the other side, and it's
Yeah,
still
the
gonna be backed
map
up because the
used to
whole other
show
neighborhood now
from
is on the
Raleigh
side.
Parkway, turning on Cato Road and going up to Jordan Ridge where the bridge is. It cuts off the distance that you're talking about going.
Yeah, that's what the.
Whether it close off bridge.
Can I ask a question? Remind me, what type of business you bring in there? Liquor store?
Beer, wine, and liquor distributors.
This blossom very good with the church.
Nice business too.
I will say on the flip side, having,
Sorry, she's had her hand.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it, sorry.
First of all, I want to ask two questions. One of them is, how many members at that church belongs in this community first? And second, has anybody asked the question, because I just came in, to freeze this conversation and everything about whatever's going on and all until after this election?
Yeah, we did
So we'll
ask.
have a, you did?
We
That
asked
was
that.
already asked.
We didn't get an answer though.
So can I get an answer on that?
So, but it's complicated, and my partner's not here to answer because it's his financial interest. So I think I want to be really careful about what I say on his behalf. I'll say that in March 2020, tornado destroyed his warehouse. He's been looking for a replacement. There's a timeline on which he has to have a replacement. And, you know, we're in a place where we're, like, at the same time, we want to be collaborative, but we do have some time constraints. And if that's the place where we end up, that's a conversation we're absolutely willing to have.
So because you all have a time limit, and if the community says no, and then that just
Well,
ends
I
it.
think the other thing is, like, you've got 2 council members in this room right now, and if they come to me and they say, like, hey, you gotta wait, and no one's willing to support the bill, then that's what we're gonna have to do.
But you don't have a council member that's in this.
But that will only happen after our election, because the current one ain't
Well,
gonna say.
but we also need 27
Yeah, absolutely.
votes to go for it, and I think, I would suspect that, District 1 council member running a bill without a lot of support probably wouldn't get 27 votes.
So what is your time constraint? What's your time?
What is, so he's been in the Smyrna warehouse since, shortly after March 2020, 5-year lease. So trying to have something up and running in 2 years.
So what happened?
Since you're wanting to build new here, why not build new in Cottonville Bend where the old facility was?
It's a great question for him, and I can't answer.
Does he own the land still and you just lost the warehouse?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question.
That's an important
Yeah.
question.
Or maybe the next meeting, make sure he's here,
Yeah,
because,
he was at the last one.
but he needs to get all of them, if he's the one that can answer
Sure.
all these specific questions,
Absolutely.
it's very important.
Have they looked at property on the south side of Ashland City Highway, which is already industrial?
Right.
I can't speak to it. But again, I got some homework anyway, so now I'm just getting more homework.
I mean, especially if you're willing to buy swap, you know,
Yeah.
you're willing to pay the money for it, so just
We've been.
pay somewhere else.
So I haven't done anything with that property in 25 years.
Exactly. We're not pushed for anything immediate.
What happens if in the future the church decided to sell everything to you guys? You know?
Say that again?
What happens if in the future the church decided, forget, this doesn't work for us, and they sell everything to you guys, and then we are the people that are going to suffer more?
Back, if it's like, say we got, so that's something we talked about. I don't know if there's a way to legally do this, but we've talked about, like, is there a way upon completion of the transaction that we just go ahead and rezone the church property back to RS10 or whatever it is now, such that it would be in a place where it's back consistent with policy. You know, that's something I don't know that we can legally do that, but that's
They
something.
did
But,
it on all the whole.
I mean, I don't think we can legally commit to that in the bill.
I believe a church can go on AR2A.
Or AR2A.
Yes, AR2A, yes.
I believe that's a permitted
Yeah, I mean, they
use.
can go, church can go anywhere. So, yeah, I mean, that's like, if we need to downzone it back, because the reason we've got this Cato, we're seeking industrial zoning on some of this Cato, is if you look, the church property is kind of here, we don't know exactly where this property line's gonna go. We think it's about here. We just don't know exactly yet. And if we don't rezone this one, then you're split zone, and it's kind of a mess. So if there's a way to do it where we can commit to downzoning everything north here back to AR2A upon completion of our lot line shift, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think you get a little bit more buy-in, because sometimes with the developments that are going up around, not just in our area, but in Nashville, it does not feel like residents who have been living in their homes for 10, 15, 20 years are being considered in those developments.
Sure.
You know, but if you come with a proposal, you say, hey, this is what we want to do, and this is how we're going to help, you know, we're going to make it better for you guys since y'all been here longer, you might get a little bit more green lights on that. You know, you might get a little more thumbs up, yeah, let's do that because we need that. I've been complaining about that, and they're going to fix it for us, you know, something like that. But what a lot of homeowners hear and what we're getting on our Facebook pages and our emails and our inboxes is, it's gonna be bananas off Cato Road, and nobody wants that. Like, nobody wants that. I think the overall consensus, if we had a compromise and we say, man, we can't fight, and the liquor store gonna have to be over there. The one thing we don't want is y'all, those box trucks. I know you keep saying on Cato, but we also don't want a lot of random traffic up and down Cato too, because, you know, at the first meeting, you said it was 200, 300 people that was gonna be here
Talk
for
about
that
General Assembly.
General Assembly thing, yeah.
That's 2 days out of the year though.
Yeah, but then that's avoiding Cato Road for that, at least that day. And what if there's a woman in labor, gotta get to the hospital, but your church people are all up and down Cato Road? I mean, you know, it's not considered.
We wouldn't have a place to meet, because everybody would say the same argument. Hey, we don't want you to bring your members here.
Oh, if it was a wider road, you wouldn't have argument. If it wasn't a 2-lane road, I think it'd be easy for y'all if it wasn't a 2-lane road.
Right.
Okay, don't say you'll have that anywhere, because you won't. There are places in Nashville where it's 4 lanes across. And there's a turn lane and a merge lane and a pass lane. We don't have that. We don't have that. That's what I'm thinking. If that was something you guys can suggest, like we're gonna make it where we're not gonna impede y'all getting out in and out of your neighborhood, and we're not gonna make it seem like every time you leave your house, no matter what time of day you leave your house, you are already in traffic. You already sitting on I-24, and we're on Cato Road.
I
That's
think-
the biggest thing.
Yeah, we're 100% open to, and we'll investigate how to craft a proposal where it's happening real time, so chat with him, but again, we're gonna have another one of these meetings. to where we keep all the traffic on Ashland.
Those considerations go a long way.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
See, here's the situation. Things change. When Brenda Gilmore was councilman out here, she came to me and asked me to vote, help her out with this subdivision that they put out there with Gilmore Crossing and et cetera. And that was supposed to be 75% Burkestone, X, They came through and these 4 attorneys that owned the property bankrupted. They did what the hell they wanted to do. And now we're all stuck with riffraff that comes up through the area. And things can change. I can sit here and listen to you saying this is what's gonna happen. You put a plan out here. As soon as you get what you want, then it changes.
Well, I think you more than anyone else know that best friends in that type of company, right?
Pardon?
I think you know that best friends in that type of company, right?
I'm not so sure.
But Best Friends could sell it.
That's true. So I'll tell you.
You would sell the property also.
I'll tell you this. So anyway, the thing you said, things change. The thing that hasn't changed is it's still zoned IR. It's not listening. That's all right.
I will say the one thing that I see that is positive about this is that of all the possible industrial uses that could go on that corner, a liquor warehouse is probably the least toxic that could be there. I mean, they have IR by right you can put chemicals in the ground, unlimited amount of chemicals in the ground. And so this is the rub for me in this whole conversation, because I want to see Nashville Next, the vision played out, and the conversation about reimagining what this part of Nashville's going to look like in 20 years, start that conversation in 10 or 15 years. And in the meantime, we keep to the plan of preserve the way things are. And we have this legacy zoning, which is this total rub, because this IR has been there forever, and it's contradictory to what the whole big vision is and all the process that we did. And so, it's a real vexing situation for me.
It hasn't been IR all the time. So when I moved to Cato Road 31 years ago, that wasn't zoned to IR.
Yeah, it's been about 25
Previous
years.
council person agreed to think that was a good idea to do. Somebody was wanting to build a cabinet shop there. Then they discovered that access was limited, so they got rid of it.
And here we are again, full circle.
So this is the second time the planning commission has.
Right, I don't know if that's.
Said no.
Previous owner asked for the same thing, they said no.
Okay, so knowing this, again, your partner, Ron, does not want to sell that IR to the church, so then they can down zone back to ARS or whatever. RS. He's not open for that at all, even with all of this that you've heard, we've said, you knew ahead of time before the land was purchased, even though it was IR.
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question.
So, your partner Ron does not want to sell to the church. You said you made the offer, or you tried to do something where you can purchase the property? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we've offered that years ago.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So is that not an option for Ron to sell to the church?
If I could, just to make sure that everybody knows, we're talking space and time. It is not immediate, it's not, so market values, and when we make an offer at that time, 7 years ago, it's not the same as it is in the property. He subsequently went and bought 2 additional properties around us. So that's where we were with that offer.
So around, like right in here?
Yeah.
So, wait a minute, so that's something different, right? Did we know that?
No.
Well, no, we're talking about these 2 properties right here, the ones that are in the proposal.
Yeah.
The
Sliver, no, but I'm asking about what they went and bought around you. Is it something that they've already shown?
Just those 2
Yeah,
properties.
these are
The property.
the ones that are in the
On the Cato
proposal.
On the Cato side.
So, okay, and so that property is IR, the one in front is IR, and then what's in red is
Just
church.
this one is IR.
Okay, so what's the sliver, the one behind it that was purchased, what is that zone right now?
I believe this is RS10.
That's residential.
And the same guy owned all 3 of those parcels. He passed away.
RS15.
This group bought.
Okay, so, I'm just wondering, this overlay that's coming down the pipeline, y'all know about the overlay? Of like
Contextual overlay?
273 point something acres, changes. So I'm wondering does that have anything to do with the overlay? Because if it does, and that goes through, then by that property being behind the IR, I mean, that's an easy, zoning change due to that, overlay. Am I right?
I'm not sure I know about that.
Contextual overlay.
Yeah, that's
I'm not sure
So
about it.
that's what I'm saying, this is all kind of like,
A contextual overlay does not change the underlying
Yeah.
zoning.
So I'm wondering if
She
this
said
has
it's not.
any, because
She
I know
said
it goes
it's not.
down Eaton's Creek, but I'm not sure about the Cato Road. But
Yeah.
anyway, if it is, I'm just wondering if that will be just an easy way for you to go
A
on and move.
contextual overlay is not a zone change, the underlying zoning stays the same. Contextual overlay is just a set of guidelines that dictate how new construction is done.
Okay, so it wouldn't make it easier for them to change that back property to.
It's just design, a contextual overlay is just design guidelines. It has nothing to do with the underlying zoning.
Well, no, I got some homework. Again, I know there's a lot of opinions, and I appreciate everyone taking the time out of their night to show up and give them to us. That's what we want. We want the feedback. Please don't think that we're not listening. We very much are. And Ian and I have been in contact. I know I got a few other people's contacts. I know Ian's got a pretty good distribution list. So let us chat on our side. I think an idea, the gentleman just walked out, an idea about like concrete proposals about what we want to do, what we would suggest doing, like keeping traffic off Cato. It's a great idea, and we'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, because when we
And then-
communicate with, you know, specifically with Jordan Ridge, it really is, it seems like a lot of hot stuff. It's like how he was saying, I was like, oh, they're thinking about doing this, and if that happens, then this. It's like, we want to be able to communicate and let them know exactly what. You know,
Sure.
people are showing up to this, you know, there are new faces in this room that weren't at the last one. And that shows that people are really wanting to know exactly what y'all doing.
And I do have a notebook passing around for email lists. Please, if you wouldn't mind signing that. That's how I emailed the group that was there last time about this. So the more people I get to, the better.
What happens next?
From a timing, great question. From a timing standpoint, the planning staff will prepare a bill by June 23rd. I believe first reading would be when this bill, if a bill goes forward, a bill will be introduced on first reading, I believe 7/6. And then I think the public hearing, the second hearing would be August 1st. The third and final hearing reading would be on August 15th. So nothing's happening at any point before council until the
And
earliest
it's
7/6.
purely in the hands of the council to vote, so all we can do is just make the council aware of our opinions, right?
That's right.
I still don't understand why we just can't still hold this off until we have an adequate council member to represent us. I know he's got a lease thing or whatever, but can he ask for an extension? So after, everybody can get a lease extension.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, that's not my call to make, but I do hear you. Yes, ma'am.
If I could just say, just again, to talk a little bit about technicalities, we've talked a little bit about specific plan, there's a process, I'm Berkeley Allen, I'm a council member, so I mess with this a lot. There's a process for amending the bill or making such a big amendment, it's considered a substitute, but it still sort of keeps going on the same schedule. And that is a possibility for incorporating everything y'all have said is important into the bill by substituting as a specific plan. It still takes 27 votes to get it passed because it's still,
Disapproved.
so, I mean, that's, it. But I mean, the process exists to get everything that's important to y'all written into law. And, you know, until y'all are satisfied with it, and it may take a long time. So, you know, there's no guarantee at all that time frame is the only time frame possible.
Gotcha.
And I would add, not to deflate hopes, but I don't want people to be overly hopeful. So in zoning legislation, because of state law, and they like to preempt everything that we do in Nashville, any requirements of the property owner has to have a nexus to the project. So it's unlikely that sidewalks along the entirety of Cato Road would have a sufficient nexus to this project. So there's a difference between what you can put in the legislation and what's in a separate community benefits agreement. Because I do have, in projects in District 2, there have been community benefits agreements where it's a private agreement between the property owner and the community as to what folks want to see. But in the actual legislation, it has to have an appropriate nexus to the project. And you may think, well, what is that? We asked the attorneys for the council to let us know, and they will let us know, like, this doesn't relate to this project at all, we can't put it in the legislation. But just to let you know that, and you may start it out to the property owner, look at what types of traffic improvements can be made to Cato Road. Because it's a small road, there may be some limitations, because you can't always widen the road. Sometimes that's not feasible. Sometimes it's not feasible to put sidewalks in because the slope is too steep. So working with NDOT or whoever's doing your traffic studies to look at what types of improvements can be made, and then bringing that back if that's something that the property owner is interested in doing as part of the project.
Jeff Hammond's doing the traffic study, and he's, should have it to us any week, any day.
Can I just ask again, you've already made the proposal and been denied having access on Ashland City Highway. What is the current bill in its form? Is it currently to go up Cato Road, or has a bill been written that's gonna be presented in like 3 weeks?
No. So there's no bill. So again, sorry, I should have done a better job explaining this.
Because that June 23rd is right around the corner, so I feel like there's a proposal
No,
in
it's
place.
so that proposal, the June 23rd date relates to the planning commission case that we had, whereby we requested a zone change and were disapproved. So if that's gonna go to council, planning staff has to have a bill prepared for that action by June 23rd.
The one that's already been denied.
Disapproved by planning commission, yes. So, but that has nothing to do with the current status of the 3 properties. Does that make sense? I just kind of.
Well, so June 23rd, does that become irrelevant, or you're just still trying to get
No,
a hearing
it's-
on getting access on Ashland City Highway?
It's very relevant, because if we can't get zoning, then we can't do a land swap with the church. And if we can't do land swap with the church, then we can't get access on Ashland City.
I'm just trying to be clear on what is being presented on June 23rd. Do you know yet?
Yes, it is the bill where we requested to rezone the properties to IR, and planning commission disapproved that request.
But where is the road access with that proposal? Was that from Ashland City Highway? Or was that?
It's this plan right here.
To have access from Ashland City Highway to the property?
Correct.
That was my question.
Yes, sorry.
So that is the proposal that's trying to move forward on June
Correct.
23rd, which would not involve Cato Road?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's where, and in that process, again, the bill hasn't even been prepared yet. So then it's gotta go through multiple iterations of hearings at council, and the council members will do a better job explaining this than me. But there's opportunity at every step along the way for things to be added, to prevent traffic on Cato Road, or prevent any access on Cato Road, things like that.
Okay.
That would happen in that process. So once the 23rd happens, that's when we can start that process of adding things into the bill. Does that make sense?
And are you getting that from our council person, or are you getting that from the community itself? Because if you're relying on the council person, then it has to happen after the election. Because we know sir ain't gonna be
live stream?
Yes.
Okay, we would love to work with the community. That is our intent.
I wish I knew, man. I would tell him how I feel to his face.
Well, I'm happy to stay and answer any individual questions people want to ask, in a group setting. I appreciate y'all showing up. I mean, again, it takes, time out of your day, so thank you very much. And we'll be in touch. I got the email list, so I'll send that emails out to everybody back time. Please eat pizza, hot dogs, take some home. Help yourself.
That's it from District 1.